Now, I know fake characters aren't leaving just yet. Usually, I make my final impressions on the last week of the banners, but as the actual collab is going to last for probably over another update, I'm just now here with my final impressions, starting with Archer. It's been roughly a patch and a half since they did release, and I've used them enough to have my final impressions. So Archer probably is one of my most used characters ever since he did release, because a little bit about me, I love single target characters, we don't really get much of them, and now that we finally got one, he's really good, and I've been very happy. As a Fate fan, it was really cool to see these characters be done really well, being in the game, being strong, and not just like, a trophy collection, and the free unit is, overall the better one. Throughout my first impressions, I was very, very surprised at his performance. He was insanely strong, and I was very happy because he was also very, very fun. Repeatedly shooting his arrows with the skill is extremely fun. When you do use his ultimate, seeing the big numbers and all the numbers fly up on your screen is really, really cool. And he finally unbenched, well, my Sparkle has never been benched really, but giving her a proper team where she's always going to be the best. Especially my Sparkle, who does have high investment, I was really happy, and they work so good together. My Sparkle makes my Archer do so much goddamn damage. It is so satisfying to see Archer just absolutely decimate HP bars in Apocalyptic Shadow, or MLC specifically. I've seen clears where he can actually max clear Purification. Single target unit, by the way, in the mode where, single target isn't the play. So the fact he can even remotely do that, even though it takes a lot of setup and such, the fact he even can in the first place is just insane. I have yet to try that. I do eventually want to get around to it, but I just haven't had the time to. But yeah, Archer in MOC, ever since, the 2 resets he's been in, I think, and probably even the next one, he's just been absolutely insane. Has absolutely no troubles just shredding through HP bars like they are butter. Honestly, the longest thing it took me about him to understand was just what can I do to get the best damage. It took me a while to eventually settle on the Archer plus Sparkle plus Cypher plus Ruan Mei. That was the one that ended up being the most damage for me. I've tried setups with Tribi, I've tried setups with Robin, and so on. Silverwolf instead of Cypher, and so on, but the setup I did mention was finally the one I noticed to have the most damage. Which is really good for me because my Ruan Mei, on my account specifically, isn't really in crazy demand. Like, she isn't really best anywhere unless I'm deciding to use Boot Hill, which I don't really use Boot Hill too much right now. But yeah, Ruan Mei isn't really on her definitive team. She's usually on the slot of like, damn, this team is strong enough for the DPS on their own, so I'm just gonna use Ruan Mei, so it doesn't really need like the optimal support such as Sunday, Tribi, so on. So the fact that I have a DPS that still does have the best setup coming from her is really good. It's primarily because of the E1 providing more defense ignore. Since Archer has the defense ignore from his genius set, then you have Cypher's defense shred from her light cone, then you also have the defense ignore E2 Sparkle provides, and also E1 Ruan Mei is going to further amplify that. So the big value of defense ignore you can get is kind of why it is the best setup technically. But yeah, it's not the only setup I've used with him, as I mentioned. I've been satisfied with practically every single setup, using him with someone like Tribi, Robin, using Silverwolf instead, using Pela instead in some setups. I do find Cypher to be the best in my opinion, just because with Silverwolf, technically for damage, she is the best. But with Silverwolf, if you are fighting a boss that doesn't really have the quantum weakness in it and you do want to implant it, the extra skill points that is needed from Silverwolf is a little bit annoying. And also having the uptime of her ultimate, you can get her ultimate really quickly, yes I do know, but wanting to use skill for the most part for that, unless you're using a energy giving sustain such as Whirlpool, which isn't really common with this team, it does get a little annoying to have uptime, which is why I do much prefer Cypher. Because Cypher, you really just gotta hit them once. If you are doing sustainless, with emiya with sustainless is just insane. It's really just using her skill once, and you really don't have to anyways, because it's not like her skill is the one making them take more damage by anything. She makes enemies take more damage by just existing. If you have the light cone, you just need to hit them and have 170 speed. So the best thing about Cypher is you really can just spam basic attack, and you hold her all anyways until you have a good amount of tally, so it's not like you need to use it and then loop it really. So having her as the skill point generator is also really good, and the occasional skill I can use when I have too many skill points is also very nice, as opposed to Silverwolf where I do gotta use it frequently to get her ultimate back quick, and then have her ultimate, which, will disappear if I use it on the first wave, and then we go into the boss, they don't have it. Hit the boss, and then I shred the boss's HP by finally getting it. Emiya might kill too fast, and now I don't have ult. So that's why I really like about Cypher. It's really easy to refresh her debuffs a lot freer because all you have to do is just hit the enemy once. Because again, she makes enemies take more damage by just existing, and also the shred from her light cone is just by hitting them. Not locked behind her ult or anything, and she's also a good skill point generator. So with emiya, I just prefer Cypher overall. Only thing I really don't like about him is how much he really does rely on Sparkle skill point gen, but that's not really an issue. This is kind of something we've already understood. There are setups where you don't need Sparkle. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't function without her. I'm just saying with her and without her is a night and day difference. Being able to supply enough skill points to repeatedly shoot is just really damn good. And so her niche of recovering the skill points to the amount that you really don't need the extra is finally fulfilled, outside of IL dotting, obviously. And having up to 9 skill points is also insane, because he overcaps, she overcaps, so you just have 9 skill points, and it's just really funny to see. But yeah, that really is my only complaint, is for most traditional setups, how much the Sparkle reliance is there. Not really an issue, just kind of like a nitpick, because, you know, a lot of units have, like, I need this unit to function properly anyway, so it's not really anything new. Otherwise, he's honestly just perfect. His damage is insanely high. His ceiling is really high. He's just such a fun unit to use in both modes. He scores very low action value counts in Epoch Shadow. Very easy to MOC Zero Cycle with as well. And again, I still need to try to get that max point purification clear with it, because it is possible. I am also really glad that his overall kit ended up being relatively complete at E0S0. I myself did pick up E1 because I know he does have a complete kit at E0S0, but that E1 is just insane quality of life, giving you a free shot every time you use skill 3 times in a turn. So using 3 shots, instead of consuming a total of 6 skill points, you'll consume the 6 but gain 2 back if you do use the third one. So 3 shots for the price of 2, it is just insanely good, especially for the amount of skill points he does use. Really good, really just his best dupe as well. Honestly, his other dupes are not really that crazy. E2 can lower quantum res by using ultimate and applying quantum weakness, but the uptime on it is horrible. E4 increases ultimate damage dealt, but you really don't need that. Obviously, his E6 is really good, giving skill point anytime his turn does start, so that's great for management. He can do more damage because it increases the stackable amount for damage boost from his skill, and also 20% defense ignore on his skill, so that's going to be really good, especially when you have all other sources of defense ignore going already to a higher number, and that lets you closer to push it up to 100%. But yeah, realistically, most people would stop at E1 because it really just is such an insane quality of life dupe. He already performs so insane at E0S0, E0S1. He has, you know, relatively solid Lycon options to use outside of his signature. But with E1S1, that's where his like real 100% potential just feels unlocked, because god damn, that extra skill points you get back is insane. But yeah, again, it's just all his things that he does have going for him. His team functions really well together. He does just such insane damage for a single target character even. There was a lot of worries about him being single target, especially when the game was, you know, high AoE focus, but now that we're shifting down, and even in AoE MOC, AoE APOC, he was performing insane. He just melts HP bars for elite enemies and bosses especially. It's actually just crazy how you can chain these attacks, and then when you do use his ultimate, it's insane damage. He having the utility follow-up attack to give you more skill points back helps you in a bunch of different scenarios. So him being such a strong DPS overall, and also having ways to counteract his biggest issue, which is skill point consumption, I really think they definitely cooked, and I definitely do think he is probably one of my favorite DPS to use ever. I don't know exactly where I would rank him in my favorites, but my final impressions, as you guys can tell, I am just extremely satisfied. This guy is such a unit. The fact he is free is crazy to me. I know Ratio was definitely crazy when he did release, and he was for a decent amount of time, but I think Archer just releasing now, especially with how he performs, I think he overall has the better impact, because that dude is actually just insane. You could tell me that Saber was a free unit and he was a summon 1, and I probably would believe you. Not saying Saber is bad at all means, she's still really good, but I definitely think that Archer is just the better one to get. Or just, you know, the better unit overall, because he is just such a unit. He is so goddamn strong. But yeah, I really don't know where I'd rank him. He's definitely near the top. He could be top 3. I really did have to give it some time to think about. I do plan on having a video talking about my favorite top 3 DPSs to use, so he might be in there. That'll probably be when I consider it. But yeah, he definitely is one of my favorite DPSs to use of all time. Currently in game, he is just so fun. I love single target characters, and he is that, and practically everything I wanted in a single target character. But that does wrap up my final impressions. Again, as you can already tell, I am extremely satisfied. This guy is just so goddamn strong. I hope they do continue this format when they do make single target DPS, because this dude is just insane. We can go back to AoE related MOC and Apox, and he probably still would cook. Only boss he doesn't cook on is going to be the Pollux boss, but really any DPS doesn't really cook on that unless they're HP drained, so that doesn't really count. This guy is just insane. He kills so quickly, he does so much damage repeatedly at that. His ceiling is really high, especially if you want to use him without Sparkle, so there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to his gameplay as well. And again, he really just is one of my favorite DPSs in the game. So now with Fake Collab being out for a while, I'm sure a lot of people do have their final impressions. So let me know what you guys think of an Archer. Are you guys as satisfied as I am for using him because he just feels insane? Or are you disappointed for some reason? So let me know in the comments below. Peace out.